whatever time of day it is you're listening, hello. My name is Brian Shotwell, and it's just me today. I'd actually recorded the same thing you're probably going to hear, a little variety of it, but still new to the whole podcast game, so it had cut off kind of the top of my pretty hair and looked weird. So I'm back in the lab, and we are getting ready to go to Miami, our favorite spot recently. Recently, the past 3 years, we've been going. And if you haven't been to Miami, let me tell you about Miami. It's not what you think. Everybody always has a like, oh reaction when we say that we're going to Miami, but it's a lot different than you think, at least maybe the way that we do Miami. We do Miami in South Beach, but we have found a gem of a hotel that is not party time. It is actually family oriented. So Paxton loves it. This would be my youngest daughter's first time there. Plenty of stuff to do for kids. There's always kids at the pool and on the beach, just being kids. And, when you get in your routine of like going places because you know everybody there and you kind of know how everything works, it's just so nice. It almost feels like a second home. The breakfast there is so good. The food there in Miami, everything that we love is within walking distance. We don't even rent a car, just Uber us to where we're going, W South Beach, and we got it from there. We found the best Cuban food, actual Cuban food. Who am I to say, because I'm from Texas, live here, but I thought I had Cuban food before. I have definitely not had Cuban food before, not from this place. It's in the back of a shitty hotel. My mouth's watering just thinking about the Cuban sandwich, the buttery bread. It's crispy, it's flaky, the pickles on there. Oh, it's so good. And they have little rum drinks that they make. So nice. We go to Kith, our favorite store. We get the ice cream from Kith. Everybody just has a little blast. When we come on back, we started going there 2020. You had to have like all kinds of crazy stuff to go out of the country, and maybe you get stuck. So we weren't about that life. Florida opened, and boom, we were there. So, but today, I could talk about Miami the whole time. The water's crystal clear. The beaches are white sandy beaches. What else do you want? But there is a little bit of what we're going to talk about today there. And that's parenting. And it's a very hot topic, I know, for a lot of people. But back to Miami real quick. The culture there is amazing. And since we homeschool our kids, showing them other cultures is so important to us. And I think so important to any parent, homeschooled or not, because that's the real world. The real world has different cultures in it. You're not going to be able to insulate your kids and only have them live on a cul-de-sac the rest of their lives, no matter what you try to do, no matter how hard you try. They're going to see the real world for what it is, hopefully. And your job right now is just to show them that as much as you can, so it's not such a culture shock and they don't know what to do when they're actually out in it. They need you now to show them. And so they can ask questions and kind of figure it out with your help now. They're 25 years old, and the first time they've seen a Latino person or a Cuban or had an experience like that, and you're not around to help them, then that can get kind of wild. So, yeah, we'll be in Miami probably by the time you guys hear this. But back to the main point of today, and that is, gotta hit record. I guess new here still is parenting. And there's so many different parenting styles, if you want to call it. But I just read the best parenting book. It really should be 1A, 1B parenting book called Good Inside by Dr. Becky Kennedy. And that's 1A. 1B, if you still haven't read it, The Whole Brain Child. Phenomenal book, Whole Brain Child. But Good Inside by Dr. Kennedy it's one of those books where it makes you stop and just kind of pause, you read a little bit. Damn, that's really good. I can do that, no problem. I won't get too much. I'm not gonna like read you the book. I highly recommend it, but a lot of it is about trusting your kids and knowing what they actually need in a moment that may seem kind of overwhelming. But it's all about being in tune with your kids' emotional needs because a lot of the times they're acting out an emotional need, if that makes sense. And so if they're having a big tantrum, that's not necessarily a physical thing that they're needing or whatever's on the surface. She says, don't treat what's on the surface. Like, don't try to stop your kid from having a tantrum. That would be like throwing a band aid on a leg that needs to be amputated type deal. That makes sense. There's a deeper cause there. And most of the time, that deeper cause is an unmet emotional need, or it's a new experience and they're actually scared and they need you the most in that moment instead of being told, no, don't have that tantrum, throwing them in timeout or whatever. They need connection in that moment, is Dr. Becky's kind of whole point of the book. And that is so powerful to me because that is how my wife and I parent our girls. And it's really hard sometimes to do it that way. And I should have prefaced all of this by saying it's just hard to talk about parenting in general because there's so much parent shame and guilt of, the times that you've yelled at your kids. I've yelled at my kids, all those things. And you get locked in where you don't want to feel uncomfortable by somebody telling you that there is probably a better way than what you're doing it. There's some ego involved with that, but the parent shame and the parent guilt is so strong that it actually keeps us in these like generational things, generational ways of parenting that have been with us for hundreds of years at this point, where we could stop it right now and make an even better and more durable generation of kids. But we have to get over that uncomfortable feeling of feeling shame. Like when you read this book, you're going to feel shame. You're going to feel guilt. But it's up to you to know that you can push through that shame and push through that guilt. And on the other side of that shame and guilt is where the good stuff is, where growth happens. And you can apply that to your personal life, anything. Now, I've been thinking about this a lot recently, and Dr. Becky touches on it. That uncomfortable feeling you get in situations is actually an opportunity for learning. So if you get uncomfortable whenever your kid's having a tantrum, for example, that means your body is telling you this is something that we are not used to, but it is up to us to do something different and get through that uncomfortable feeling. And think about that whenever you need to have like tough conversations with your spouse or your boyfriend or your girlfriend or your partner or friend. You get that kind of uncomfortable feeling. It's because your body's not used to doing that. You were maybe raised and maybe brought up to, not have uncomfortable conversations or fill in the blank, whatever. You're uncomfortable when you're trying to learn something new. That is such an opportunity for you. That's your body saying, let's figure out something new here. This is a chance to learn. I'm uncomfortable, but it's like a fork in the road. Are you going to go this way and just quit basically and just keep on doing what you've been doing and get out of the uncomfortableness? Or are you going to go this way where it's probably going to get a little more comfortable? You're going to come out on the other side of that uncomfortableness into this awesome like highway system that's beautiful, and you're living your best life, living up to your potential through that. Hope that made sense, but it's almost, you've probably seen this on a t-shirt somewhere. It says embrace the suck, embrace the uncomfortable moments. You've probably seen that on like fitness IG people, which is true. That can be applied to fitness and working out as well. The uncomfortable moments is an opportunity for growth and learning. That is true, but you can apply that to so many things, but especially parenting. And I want to preface all of this stuff that is in the book, Good Inside by Dr. Becky Kennedy, and what I've just been saying of all the things that we may complain about. Oh, this generation is lazy. This generation, this generation, blah, 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 blah. I wish I would have done this. I wish somebody would have told me this. Well, guess what? We're all having kids now. You can do that. It is up to you. But guess what? It's going to be uncomfortable. There's going to be moments where you're not the best, but we have to. It's up to us. And it's so worth it because I know that because I've done the work on myself. Listen, I used to be the king, and sometimes I still am, of the shame spiral. Something happens, I feel so much shame from it, and it's just like this never ending. I'm a bad person, I'm a bad dad, I'm a bad husband. Oh my God, I did this, blah, blah, blah. And just round and around and around we go. But once I kind of did some stuff, some inner work, and got to where I can get out of that shame cycle, then I can actually see the growth opportunities and the knowledge, which is, I love new things, knowing new things. I love knowing things. So the way that Jen, my wife, and I raise our daughters now is very whole brain child. And now this book, Good Inside, which is being in tune with your kids' emotions, respecting their emotions, not telling them that let's just not be sad. Why are you so mad? They're humans too. And another preface, it's almost like a warning. The way that we parent our kids is not for everyone. And I'm not saying that you should parent your kids like this. I'm just giving you an option. And maybe it makes you feel uncomfortable. And maybe today's the day that you decide that you want to explore that uncomfortable feeling and maybe learn a little bit something. So the way that we parent our kids is very much, we believe, and I think that you should too, that kids are far more capable than society and we, so far as a society, makes them out to be, i.e., helicopter parents, i.e., doing everything for them. They are little tiny humans, fully grown humans, but just tiny versions if you let them be. Case in point, we let our daughter make her own meals sometimes. Most of the time it's me doing it, but since she was like 2 years old, she's been able to use an actual knife, cut a banana, cut an apple, cut a sausage, whatever. If you're hungry and you want to do that and I'm not able to, she is fully capable of getting a knife out of the drawer and doing it. Is it sharp? Yeah. Could she cut her finger? Yeah. But guess what? I trust her that she is so capable that if it is too scary for her in the moment, that she won't do it. She'll ask for our help. But that is believing in your kid and not being so scared that everything is going to just like kill them. What is the worst case scenario in this cutting her own banana? She may get her finger in the way and cut it. Are the chances high that she's going to cut it off? Probably not. Slamming doors around here. But we want to raise up strong and independent kids now, so that way, fast forward 20 years and they're in some relationship and they're trying to rely on somebody else to tell them how to think, tell them how to do stuff. That can just get tricky, and that's a spot where I don't think we don't want our kids to be in. We can't just assume that they're just going to know that somebody's trying to manipulate them. We have to teach them the skills that they need now, so they don't need your son's dusty ass help, your dusty ass son's help, cutting up a pear and manipulating them in some weird way, whatever it is. But raising up a generation of strong and independent kids, and guess what? it actually takes the pressure off of you if you let it, where you're not having to do everything for your kid. You're not having to get them dressed every morning. Because guess what? What's the big deal that you let your kid pick out their clothes? Are you so concerned on how swaggy your kid looks? That's weird, man. Stop it. Just stop. Let your kids pick out their clothes. What's the worst case scenario? It's some weird, unmet. Look at what I'm wearing. Who cares? They feel so empowered, and you can see it on their face too. My daughter knows how strong and capable she really is. Sometimes she doesn't want to do that stuff, and that's fine. But she knows that she can ask for help at any time. My wife put out this really cute video of our oldest daughter making cookies herself, like full on, this is the box, here you go, make the cookies. Made them, put them on we like turned the oven on for her because she couldn't reach it. She like gets the little oven mitts on, grabs the thing, and puts it in the oven, closes the door, tells the lights of the timer. You would have thought that we posted a video, I don't even, of something just horrible, of like a shark attack or something. I don't know, something horrible. The amount of people freaking out over our daughter putting a pan of cookies into an oven, it was actually surprising to me. Go back. What's the worst that can happen? She has a little burn on her arm, and I get it. I hate seeing my kids in pain, believe me. But you know what I do love seeing? It's so enriching to me as a parent to see my daughter. She just made cookies, and she's so proud of them. And we all sat down as a family and like ate cookies and drank milk afterwards. Cookies that she made. So yeah, that feeling and seeing her feel so capable far outweighs a little burn that you can get on your arm. I've read quite a few books, and because I think we all should, back to the uncomfortable of the Native American indigenous peoples, and we won't get into the treatment of them by settlers and white people on this podcast, at least. We definitely will later, but Native Americans and indigenous peoples, their culture just, it feels so awesome to me. Their culture of how they raise kids. Kids played all day with other kids, older kids, younger kids. They played all day and they just figured stuff out on their own. Never would a parent say, don't put your hand next to that fire, it's hot. Don't go down by the river because you could drown. They just figured it out on their own. They looked around their surroundings. Again, our kids are way more capable than we give them credit for. A kid looks at a fire and knows that that's hot. I guarantee it. Looks at that fire, knows that it's hot. Or if not, they look around at other people like, oh, those other people aren't like sticking their hands and feet in there. Maybe I shouldn't either. Guaranteed. They probably don't need to be told that. And that's crazy to hear somebody say that, but it's true. So, will I still tell my girls that something's hot? Probably. But I won't say, no, don't touch that. Here's a phrase that you can try out. That stove's not for touching right now because it can burn you. Or, do you see how close your hand is to that fire? That's been our favorite one recently. Do you see how close you are to the ledge? Puts the ball in their court. You're not telling them to get down. You're not scaring them for some unnecessary reason. You're just letting them know, hey, maybe watch out for where your foot's going. Or don't. Guess what? They're going to figure it out one way or another. Again, empowering our kids to be more independent. And maybe that is product of homeschooling packs, because there are moments in the day where we're just doing whatever we want to do. We're doing our own thing. I usually go into the office and write. Today she went into her room, cleaned it up, stripped all of her sheets, took them in the laundry room, made her bed again, vacuumed her room. Hey, this was the first time that's happened in like a month, so don't think that that's a normal everyday thing. But she goes in our craft room and makes crafts and pulls out books that she wants me to read to her. She just does whatever. She's hanging out. She's acting like basically like a teenager, but she's 6. That is empowering our kids to know, oh, I can do stuff for myself. And Dr. Becky on Good Inside talks about this, instilling it in your kids that they know their bodies and they're in charge of their bodies. And again, uncomfortable conversation, but as parents, we don't need to tell our kids about their own bodies. Oh, we do. Okay, so they're in charge of their bodies. So if they don't want a hug, they don't have to give a hug. That's our kind of house thing. Speaking of house thing, we have one rule in our house, and that is be respectful. That's it. That's our rule. We don't punish, we have consequences to our actions. So if you're acting disrespectfully, there's a consequence. So it's pretty cool to see kids come over. And even when we first moved in, kids would come over and be shocked that there's no rules here. No, just have fun and be respectful to each other. So we can jump on the couch, jump all over that couch, do a flip on that couch. We can pull the couch cushions off and make a fort. Pull that whole couch out in the middle of the room and make a fort from it. I don't care. But again, that's uncomfortable. That's hard. And believe me, it is uncomfortable for me some days. Maybe I'm tired, I haven't had enough sleep, or whatever's going on that day. I feel like being like, no. Because as we know, guess who's cleaning all that stuff up? Us, the parents. And I get it. It's hard sometimes to not let your kid, guess what? Be a kid. Let your kid be a kid. Kids, look at it this way. What was your perfect childhood? What was like your best moments as a kid? What do you wish you could have done more of as a kid? What made you so happy as a kid? We get to give that to our kids right now. We get to not get yelled at for making a fort in the center of the living room or jumping on the bed or doing what other dumb shit that we grew up having rules about. Who cares? It takes like 4 minutes to pick up a pillow fort. And I get it. Again, I get it. My daughter has recently been doing this outdoor restaurant concept with their friends where they take all the dishes from inside, take them outside to our outdoor like table. They serve everybody. But guess what's for dinner? Rocks, twigs, leaves, and dirt. And all of those dishes, 20 of them at a time. Guess who has to clean them up? Me. It's hard. I have to close my eyes and just think, this is so good for her imagination, so good for her self-confidence. It's awesome. Okay, time to talk about a real it's a Jimmy Rustler within a Jimmy Rustler. And that is food around kids. You could go online right now and find 50 different methods of teaching your kid to eat. Fast food's bad, which I do believe that's probably not the best option. Doesn't mean it's bad. And then you'll see fights within the comments. It's crazy. This is a whole nother conversation that we'll have at some point, social media and society and all that stuff. But if you think back to what is baseline, what am I trying to be as a parent? How can I sum it up? I raise confident, independent girls. That's it. How do I do that? Well, around food, I trust that a 6-year-old knows what their body needs to eat. If her body is telling her that she needs sugar, she goes into the pantry and gets a piece of candy and eats sugar. Boy, I'm uncomfortable right now saying that out loud, but it's because of my own stuff. And that's another thing that Dr. Becky on Good Inside talks about, is recognizing the triggers that we have in our own personal development, basically, and how that is pushing on to our kids and raising our kids. So just because I'm uncomfortable in a moment does not mean that I need to stop my kid from doing that thing. And that's crazy. But it still takes work. Do we let her eat a full size? Well, she doesn't like chocolate. I was going to say Snickers bar. Full size pack of Skittles. Love Skittles. Gets that from me. Right before bed? No. We're going to say, hey, remember the last time that you did that? You had a tummy ache when you woke up and you had a hard time sleeping. She's going to go, okay. Or, okay, I'll only eat a few. That's it. But it's hard to get out of that, like, making up rules just to make up rules. That couple Skittles before bed, probably not going to hurt them. Couple Skittles for lunch, probably not going to hurt them. Do you need to step in if they're only eating Skittles throughout the day? Of course. They need to be taught. But the way you talk about foods, good, bad, there's no good or bad. There's nutritious and there's not as nutritious in our house. But you have to teach them what nutritious means. Nutritious means foods that energize our body, gives us energy, and lets us grow. That's a nutritious food. Candy, it's so yummy. Cake, it's so yummy. But it's just not as nutritious. And it's going to give us energy for a little bit, and then we won't have any. That's it. You leave it in their hands. If they want to eat that, then all up to you. And this is kind of maybe an obvious thing, but there is no like dessert. She knows the term, but say I make a family dinner, as we call it, where I make stuff for everybody. Some stuff that Paxton likes, stuff that we all like, and that's an opportunity for our oldest to try something new if she wants. It's all out on the table. There'll be some cookies on the table, some pasta on the table, some steak on the table, some veggies, mashed potatoes, all of it. Whatever she decides that she wants to put on her plate and try, that's it. It's not, you need to finish this plate before you get dessert, or you need to finish this plate before you get up. That's not empowering our kids to listen to their bodies and listen to their intuition and their gut on what they actually need. And again, that is just like future planning where they're strong, independent, capable, confident humans, as adults at some point. So yeah, where are we at with time? Okay, great. We'll talk about school. I'm gonna look around because my wife's not in the room, so I can say this. Again, this is talking about parenting is just, it's hard. You know, you have to be super sure that you are in a safe place with another parent to talk to them about anything parenting related, how styles of doing it, different scenarios. But this is one that, you know, maybe I can talk to. I probably know a handful of people now that I can talk to like this, and they won't get offended or unfollow me in real life. And that is, public school is a prison. Now, hear me out. Public school is a prison if you think about it, because kids get bussed in. It's, look at those buildings, and it is, everybody is learning the same thing in the same way. You get in line or you get out. That is the whole thing. Somebody tells you when to sit down, somebody tells you when to stand up, somebody tells you when to eat, somebody tells you when to play, somebody tells you when to talk, somebody tells you when to sleep if you're in like preschool. That's just not aligned with my goal and mission of raising independent, confident girls or independent, confident boys, independent, confident kids. That's just not it. What does a kid learn? And I know what your answer is going to be, but hear me out. What's a kid learn going to a public school and being told to sit there, sit still, be quiet, and don't get up until I tell you to get up? What does a kid learn from having to stand in line just to go outside? What does a kid learn outside of math, some history, whatever else they're teaching in school now. Social studies. Okay. How many times have you had a conversation? This I'm talking to you adults with your friends or family that went like this. Man, I wish they would have taught us about taxes in high school. I wish they would have taught us how rent works. I wish they would have taught us how buying a house works. Nobody ever taught us this stuff. How many conversations have you had like that? Guess what? It's 2023 and they're still not teaching any of that in high school. They're just thrown out into the world after that. That's crazy to me. So that's one of the reasons why we chose to homeschool, because it aligns with our values as a family, strong, independent, capable, young little humans. And I totally I'm very empathetic if you have no other choice but your kid goes to a public school. Or maybe you just don't know. Maybe you just don't even think about it. It's uncomfortable for you to think about staying at home with your kid, or it's not suited for you. But I just challenge you to think about it. Is this what's best for my kid? Or is my kid just getting put into a system that is just feeding the cog of society, of learning how to sit down and be quiet and do what somebody else is telling me to do? That's just creating worker bees, in my opinion. I want somebody that knows exactly what they want, when they want it, and how they want to get there. If you're so inclined, there's this thing called unschooling, which we try not to label like we unschool. Unschooling is a part of our kind of homeschooling thing, and it is the like around 5 times and back over here on the side of what schooling is. Unschooling method is just goes back to trusting what your kids know, or trusting that your kids know what's best for them and how they get there, and just providing them opportunity to learn all these different things, and whatever they want to learn about, you help them learn that thing. So for us, we have a homeschool room that has a bunch of different things, from math to history to cool science experiment books to blocks and art and all these different things. She goes in there and she picks what she wants to learn that day, and we learn it. Do we watch videos on that stuff? Absolutely. We were into a nice shark moment there because we went to Florida maybe last year or 2 years ago and went shark diving with her, because that's awesome. She's very capable to do that. So we learned about sharks before, and then like the field trip was the shark diving. She was 4 at the time, so that's awesome. She didn't stay down there a long time, but she saw a shark in the open water in the ocean. And then she went up on the boat and got with the captain and was like cutting up fish and throwing it down for us so the sharks would come. It was awesome. And that's part of unschooling, is just knowing that your kids know best for what they need. And this is going to be uncomfortable too. That goes for their own emotions as well. Let your kid be sad. Let your kid be mad. Let your kid be don't fill in the blank. Let your kid be fill in the blanks. Don't stop them from feeling any type of way, because then they just think to themselves, oh, feeling sad is bad. I just won't show people that I feel bad, because then they'll pull away from me. That's what goes through a kid's brain whenever you're telling them to not feel sad. There's nothing to be sad over. In their brain, there is. They're like, bullshit, there definitely is something to feel sad about. I feel sad right now, but the human that is telling me how the world works tells me that I shouldn't be sad. So I don't want to be away from them. So I'm just going to do whatever they say. Yuck. Don't do that. Let's see. What have I forgotten? Okay, I think that's it. Empower our kids. The more we empower our kids, the less actual parenting that you'll have to do. It sounds weird, but it's true. If you empower your kids, you're not having to chase them around the park like a crazy lady helicopter parent, thinking if they fall and skin their knee that the world's over and they're gonna die somehow and they're gonna hate you. That's crazy talk. Let your kids be kids. Let them explore their surroundings. Let them explore their world. Let them ask you questions because they will. Hey, mommy, what's that? Hey, daddy, how does that work? Tell them. Don't just be like, ah. Don't be a bum. Answer your kids' questions. That's how they learn. Let them explore. That's how they learn. Let them fail. Ooh, let them fail. Because guess what? That's how they learn. Let them do hard stuff because that's how they learn. If you don't let them do stuff, how are they going to learn? And learning is not just sit down and do your social studies workbook that the teacher tells you to do. Learning is everywhere. Learning how to regulate their emotions, learning how to do something for themselves. That is what learning is. Let your kids do that. Okay, that's it. I'm going to be in Miami. Maybe I won't come back this time. Maybe today's. No, I'm just kidding. We have looked into having a place there, but they're not giving those away. So, okay. Choose.